Sammy. I am the president of HCASF, and we're going to go over the red zone and sexual assault. This is very sensitive content information, so if you feel that you are uncomfortable, you may leave at any time. Feel free to ask questions. This is, again, very sensitive topic, and it's something that definitely should be addressed because it does happen on campus, and it's the reason why we're having this workshop is to bring awareness to it and to be able to prevent further situations for students in the future. So when talking about the red zone, it's about reclaiming like your zone. It starts normally at the beginning of semester all the way to Thanksgiving break, but it doesn't just stop there. That's the peak of it. It can go on to the following semester where sexual assault does occur. And it's something to be aware of because it happens on campus more likely than you actually think. And with that being said, like, what is the red zone? So when we're looking at the red zone, it's the period from mid-August to November. It's when students are the most vulnerable to sexual assault. Around 70% of sexual assaults on college campuses occur during the first few weeks of being on campus. And this was actually a surprise to me when I learned about this because I wasn't actually aware that this is an occurring factor on our campus, or that it could be. Not to say that it is, but to know of the resources that we have on campus can definitely help with preventing a lot of these situations to occur. And also never be afraid to speak out if you see something inappropriate going on. There's nothing wrong with just saying, checking in with that individual, making sure that they're okay, because sexual assault is a huge thing within any type of community. So you see something, you do something. It's just like if you see, like I was saying, if you see anything, just be direct, distract, delegate, document, and delay. Distract, trying to draw attention of something else, trying to just get out of the situation best as possible. Be direct, be straightforward, and be clear about what you want and what you don't want, because this is a very sensitive thing, and you want to make sure you're very straightforward with the individual that you are with. If you ever feel that you are uncomfortable walking on campus, because we do have a night escort service where campus individuals can walk you to and from your car. They can walk you to your classes if need be. They can help you getting across campus without feeling like you're scared, or if you're ever having issues stalking too. That's another thing. Knowing that these are resources on campus for you is great, because you are able to prevent further things from happening to you, or just have the reassurance that you're with somebody that can protect you in that moment. Again, delegate, seek help from another person if you need help. There's nothing wrong with that. Document the incident, keep a safe distance, record the date and time, who's present, film or screenshot the incident or landmarks, and then delay, check with the person being harmed later. Check in with the person being harmed later. Because these are people who go through these traumatic events do suffer in a way that even just like a gentle touch could be very triggering to somebody. And it's one of those things that you have to be very mindful of, especially if it's not their first time. People can be triggered by certain, just like even just a simple touch. So being mindful of people's sensitivities. So during the first 6 weeks on campus, freshman students are the most vulnerable for sexual assault. 1 in every 5 women are sexually assaulted while in college. And this is actually pretty important information, because at the end of the day, this is a reoccurring thing and it's not going to go away. People are only, I have to say, because technology is just growing, people tend to do a lot more. They're able to have more access to information. And so sexual assault can occur and stalking can occur too. So it's just being aware that, you know, with the growing technology and with the growing of our population, it's not going to go away. It's going to be a consistent issue unless we bring awareness to it, and that we're aware of our surroundings to prevent this from happening. So no means no. Stop means no. I'm tired means no. Not now means no. I'm not sure means no. I'm not ready. I don't like it. Maybe next time. No doesn't mean, or no does not mean convince me. Just no means no. If you're not in the mood, like, that's it. Just that should be it. No questions asked. Somebody should respect what you want and what you want for your body. We also partnered with Not Alone at the Beach as well. And for this is for WGEC. We're always here. And again, we have the Not Alone at the Beach Cares team, Office of Equity and Diversity, and the Confidential Victims Advocate. And when you go to these advocates, they're not, I believe they're not legally to report unless you wanted them to. I'm not entirely sure, but I know our leader from Not Alone at the Beach, who's partnered with us for this workshop, is going to speak a little bit more about it. And I'll have her introduce herself.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Rocio Lumbre. I use pronouns she, her. I'm one of the campus confidential advocates here on campus. Thank you, Sammy, for inviting me to your workshop today, or to your meeting today. So what I wanted to do today is kind of go over a little bit more about resources that we have here on campus, and also just share a little bit more information about some of the things that Sammy touched on as well. And again, like Sammy mentioned in the beginning, just a content warning. Some of the information that I am going to be going over is going to be a little bit sensitive. So please keep that in mind. And if you need to go ahead and step away from the computer, or if you need to go ahead and maybe mute, feel free. After the presentation, I'll go ahead and leave my contact information in case you want to go ahead and reach out to me, and you want to go ahead and just speak to me privately. More than happy to. But I also want this meeting or this conversation to be interactive. So please go ahead and unmute yourself, comment in the chat if anything comes up. I want to make sure that I give you all this space to be able to kind of share some thoughts that you all have as well. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So give me 1 second. Okay, can you all see my screen? The full screen, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, and let me start from the beginning. Okay, so again, I know Sammy already touched on red zone, so we'll go ahead and kind of skip that portion, but I want to focus on the sexual assault awareness portion. So like I mentioned, I'm one of the campus confidential advocates. For as long as I know, we've only had one campus confidential advocate on campus for the entire Captain Long Beach community. We now have two. So I was recently hired to accompany Jacqueline to go ahead and provide this assistance to you all. And I'll kind of go over a little bit more about the services that we're able to go ahead and provide to each and every one of you. But again, like I mentioned, just some content warning. Please take care of yourself. I know that this conversation is going to be a little bit difficult, and it may trigger some emotions, some thoughts. So please take care of yourself. If you need to speak to me after, I'm more than happy to. I'll go ahead and provide my information as well. But kind of from the get-go, so some of the definitions in terms of like what we're looking at when we talk about sexual assault. So two main ones. So sexual assault is basically the umbrella term that indicates any unwanted or conduct against somebody's will by force or threat. And the thing is, they didn't provide any consent. That includes sexual batteries, oral copulation, or rape. And the reason why I want to focus also on rape is because that's a lot of the times that's one of the main ones that we kind of focus on. So rape is under the main sexual assault, but it's defined as sexual penetration without the consent of the victim. So the definition of rape includes situations in which the act is committed when the victim is prevented from resisting or is unable to give consent due to them being intoxicated, incapacitated, drugged, or unconscious. So the different types of rape, there's a variety. So it could be from an acquaintance, some other dating, a stranger, a partner, and that kind of goes into intimate partner violence, like domestic violence, and it can also include like drug and alcohol. So in terms of consent, so I like using this because it's kind of like a good reminder in terms of like what consent is. So if you look at the term prize, so if we want to look at individual letters, it's freely given. So both parties have the freedom to say yes and no, and consent does not involve any type of pressure, force, or manipulation. Consent is also reversible, so anybody can change their mind at any time. So you can be holding hands at one point and you start making out, but it starts going somewhere where you don't want to. And again, that the kiss could be yes, anything else can be no, and that at that point is non-consensual. So informed consent, you can only consent to something if you have the full story. So you want to make sure that you understand what is happening in that scenario. And if at any point you don't feel comfortable or you don't know where it's heading to, again, you can always remove that consent. Enthusiastic. So when it comes to sex, you should always only do stuff you want to do, not things that you feel you're expected or forced to do. And consent is very specific as well. So you can say yes to one thing doesn't mean you're going to say yes to other things. So you kind of want to keep that in mind in terms of the relationships that you're going to. And it doesn't, and consent can also be just not dating relationships, but also friendships. Because at the end of the day, like consent is not just entitled to like a sexual relationship. You kind of also want to look at it in the spectrum of just relationships in general. So something like a good reminder, and it's kind of like a cute thing to do, like, okay, consent fries. It's easy to remember, and making sure that you want to make sure that you provide consent in any type of situation that you're in as well. And so in terms of like the red zone, I know Tammy touched on some of the topics in terms of like red zone being it's at its peak from the beginning of the semester to Thanksgiving break. And again, unfortunately, at a college campus, sexual assault can happen during at any point of somebody's academic career. So we want to make sure that we also provide you information in terms of like, what can I as an individual do to be safe, but also keep others safe around us? Because when it comes to being on a college campus, we also want to be realistic, like I'm not gonna think that y'all are never going to go to a college party, like y'all are never going to go drink, because that's an unrealistic expectation. And we want to make sure that we give you this information with the idea that you're going to take this and use it on your everyday life. Like I'm not going to provide anybody unrealistic expectations about like this is what you should be doing. Anything out of that scope is something that you shouldn't. So some of the things that you all can do in terms of like being safe. So if you do attend a party, like make a plan. If you go with friends, like go with people you trust. So agree to watch out for one another and have a plan to leave together. So what does that look like? Like, so it's kind of in terms of like safety planning. What's going to happen? Like, what time are you all leaving? Like, is there a location where you're meeting? So kind of keeping those things in mind. Like I recently went to a concert and the first thing that my friend and I did, like we shared each other's location because that's like the first thing that we did. And we told each other like, hey, if we get lost, like this is the place where we're going to meet at. So just kind of keeping those things in mind, or also protecting your drink. Don't leave your drink unattended. Watch out for your friend's drink. If you left it somewhere, probably not smart if you want to go ahead and like pick it up, because you don't know if anybody kind of pass by it or maybe put something on your drink. So kind of keeping those things in mind, and also knowing your limits. If you start to drink, how many drinks can you take realistically? So you want to kind of keep that in mind. And if you feel that maybe you drink way above your limit, letting your friend know, like, hey, maybe it's probably a good time for us to go home. Like, I don't feel well. Kind of making sure you keep track of your body and what it's telling you. And also, it's okay to lie. Like, if you are in an uncomfortable situation, at that point, like, try to get yourself out of that situation, like any way possible. So if you need to lie to the other person, like, hey, like my mom's calling, like, hey, like, so and so is waiting for me. So just kind of making sure that you try to do what's possible to leave those situations. And I know Sammy mentioned some of the 3Ds in terms of like distraction, and things like that as well. Like it's totally fine for you to kind of find other ways to get yourself out of that situation. And then also just be a good friend and just trust your instincts. If you see that your friend is maybe like not doing so well, probably best to maybe step aside and like check on them, or maybe it's probably best to leave. So just kind of keeping those things in mind to make sure that not only are you keeping yourself safe, but also keeping others safe as well. And again, always going back to the safety planning aspect of it all, kind of keeping that in mind too. But yeah, if anybody has questions like or thoughts, comments, like please feel free to put it on the chat or just unmute yourself too. Okay. And then the other thing. So one of the things that I also want to touch on is like, what can we do to support a friend? Because at the end of the day, unfortunately, situations like these do happen. And we want to make sure that we have like the basic understanding in terms of like what we can do as individuals to be of support to that friend. Because at the end of the day, we want to be there for them. So the one, if you take anything from this presentation, the one thing that I'd like for you to take is if somebody comes to you and discloses that maybe they were in a situation that maybe they have been sexually assaulted, maybe they're going through a difficult time at home, or maybe there is intimate partner violence, dating violence, maybe there's some stalking, harassment, anything of that nature, and they go to you and they tell you like, hey, like this is what's going on. The one piece of advice I do give you is just listen without judgment, because that's probably the most important thing that you want to make sure you do. Because the minute that somebody goes to you and you start telling them like, well, what did you do that may have gotten you in that situation? Or like, what were you wearing? That is probably not something that you should be telling somebody, because it will deter them from going to you, and them going to you to begin with like show some level of trust. So you want to make sure that you listen without judgment and allow them to just share, because it may be that that's the first time that they're sharing it to somebody, and you just want to be able to give them that space, and also just believe them, just believe what they're saying, because a lot of the times there's many individuals unfortunately that will tell them, I don't believe, I don't believe you because you're X, Y, and Z. Like, that's not what I saw. Just believe them, and just don't push them to do anything in terms of like sharing that with anybody else. Because at the end of the day, we want to also be patient with them, because it's their story to tell, and as a friend, we want to be as supportive as we possibly can. So we want to be able to be present and create a safe space for them to be able to share that information. And at the end of the day, just advocate on their behalf. If they're ready to go ahead and share that with somebody else, maybe they want to report it to authorities, maybe they want to go ahead and share that information with somebody else, just advocate for them in terms of like getting that support, or just at least getting them that information like, hey, this incident happened on campus. We have, don't know if you know, but we have confidential advocates that may be able to speak with you if you'd like to get more information about resources, what's available here on campus. So again, if all they need is just information, give that to them and allow them to be ready at their own terms. But again, I think my most important advice is just listen without judgment, because I think that's the most important thing in terms of like just being supportive with individuals who have experienced some type of violence through their lifetime. And so then so who are we as campus confidential advocates? So if somebody has experienced anything related to like anything related to sexual violence in terms of like sexual harassment, sexual assault, dating or domestic violence, stalking. So we provide a safe space for anybody who's experienced any of these issues. So we're actually confidential support. So for many of you that don't know, if you disclose anything relating to any of these topics to any professor, any staff member, they are obligated to go ahead and report that to the Office of Equity and Diversity. And unfortunately, that is not to say it's against your will, but it's for your safety. So they are mandated to go ahead and make any report to the Office of Equity and Diversity, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that you're safe. However, if you speak with any, to myself or Jacqueline, we're a confidential support. So anything that is disclosed to myself and Jacqueline will not be shared with the Office of Title IX. It will be, your consent will be needed for us to share that information. So that is something important that we want to go ahead and share. But again, if you are to disclose anything to us, it will remain confidential. The only times that we'll break that confidentiality is if there is any like immediate safety to yourself, immediate safety to somebody else, or if there's any like child or elderly abuse. But other than that, we see it as we want to make sure that we empower the individual to go ahead and make any report that they feel comfortable with. And then we'll also provide resources in terms of like what's available. So this is some of the things that we are able to go ahead and provide. So again, confidential support. So the idea that anything that is disclosed between you and I will stay within that safe space. We will also provide the crisis counseling. So if at any point anybody has experienced any type of dating violence, sexual violence while they're a student at Captain Long Beach and they need to go ahead and speak with somebody, we're there for support. Or if at any point you felt triggered, maybe there's an assignment, maybe there was a discussion that maybe you felt triggered and you want to go ahead and speak with somebody about it. Again, our office is open as well. Title IX guidance. So in this, it could be a long conversation, but in short, basically, if you'd like to open up a Title IX investigation, basically that means that there was an incident that happened on or off campus between students, staff, faculty, and you'd like to go ahead and make a report and possibly continue an investigation. We're able to go ahead and provide guidance in terms of like, what does that mean? What are the steps? Like, what are your options? So we'll be able to guide you through that entire process. If it needs to go to an investigation, again, we'll be able to walk you step by step. We provide advocacy for supportive measures. So there are some measures that we'll be able to go ahead and provide you in terms of like, do you need maybe an extension to a class because you're having a difficult time coping with the incident that happened? Maybe your mental health isn't doing that well because of that incident and you need to maybe skip a class. We'll be able to make those short-term accommodations. We are also able to go ahead and provide accompaniment. So if you need to go to a medical exam, so a sexual assault exam, if you need to go to court for a restraining order, a civil harassment order, if you need to go file a police report on, or if you need to go to that Title IX investigation, we're able to go ahead and accompany you. So we're the only where Jacqueline and I are the only individuals on campus that are able to travel off campus and accompany students for those type of support as well. And then linkages to other on campus or off campus resources. So I think Long Beach has a great community of resources here on campus that we provide to students. So we're able to go ahead and provide those referrals, but there's also a great community off campus that may be able to go ahead and provide support to students as well. So we'll be able to kind of provide those referrals and make sure that you get those services that you need. And then how can you connect with Jacqueline or myself? So we're housed under Student Health Services. So way back at the dorms where all the student parking is at, you can either do walk-in or you can schedule appointments, but you can give us a call. Our phone number is there. You can email us to advocate@csulb.edu to schedule appointments or maybe see if you want to speak with either of us. And then our office hours are from Monday to Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So you can reach out to us at any point if you have any questions, or maybe you're not going through any of this, but you just want to get more information because you know of a friend that's maybe going through a difficult time and you want to have resources available to them. Feel free to reach out to us as well. And again, a lot of the times students that do come in to see us may just want to get the information, but may not be ready to move forward with any type of like investigation, or maybe doesn't want to contact the police, or because they have some type of fear. That's totally fine. I think that at the end of the day, the goal of Jacqueline and myself is to provide you that information, and then you can take that with you and you can decide what you want to do. Because a lot of the times when we deal with individuals who have experienced like dating violence, sexual violence, that power and control, that control is being taken away from them. And we want to make sure that they regain that control and be able to decide what they want to do with themselves. And if that means like just getting the information, and maybe I'll talk to you a month from now and see if that works for me then, totally fine, because I want to make sure that I give you the information and you feel comfortable coming to me in the future and be like, hey, Rocio, I know we talked like 3 months ago. Is it okay for us to reconnect again? and that's totally fine. I want to work with you at your pace. And if that means walk 2 steps, go back 3, and then go back 10, go forward 10 steps, that's totally fine with me too. And then other on-campus confidential support services. So within our behavioral health department, we have Linda Pena. She's an amazing individual who is a licensed marriage and family therapist, who's a violence prevention and sexual assault misconduct counselor. So she actually works directly with individuals who have experienced dating violence, sexual violence, and she's able to meet with them on a short-term basis for counseling. So you can reach out to her directly, or we can always connect you with her. And again, she's also a confidential resource, so she will not be sharing any information that is disclosed to her with the Office of Equity and Diversity. Same with CAPS, so the Counseling and Psychological Services. So we have an amazing psychologist here on campus that will be able to also meet with you for short sessions on campus and be able to kind of work through some of the issues as well. And then some non-confidential on-campus reporting. So the Office of Equity and Diversity. So again, if anybody wants to go through an investigation, that would be the resource. And then the University Police Department. So within at the Cal State Long Beach, we have our own police department. So if at any point anybody wants to maybe file a police report, or maybe go ahead and reach out to the police department, they can go to the police department office and reach out to them. They do have a 24/7 non-emergency line that you can go ahead and reach out to them. And if for whatever reason, and then this is also for the surrounding community, so it's not just Cal State Long Beach, but if at any point maybe there is some safety concerns in terms of like your location and you're not able to call 911, you can actually text 911. It is available on campus and the surrounding community. So if you text 911, it'll link you directly to 911. So if there is some safety, if there's an emergency that you need to go ahead and deal with, you can text them and then they'll be able to respond if you're unable to make the call. And then, like Sammy mentioned, so there is the night escort program. So it is a free safety service provided by UPD, and this is available basically all day. There's like a cutoff in terms of like Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. I think it goes to like maybe midnight, but they can go ahead and escort you from your car or in around campus, and then also there's a lot of blue light poles around campus, and I have the link if we want to kind of look at it. But if you walk around campus, there's a lot of blue light poles, and it's basically this like long pole, and it's literally blue, and you press on it, and then it'll call directly to the university police, and then they'll go ahead and head to wherever that light, wherever the blue light was pulled from. So if at any point you want to go ahead and like figure out where they're at, I'm going to share this presentation anyways, and I have the exact link, but you can basically go to like CSULB like campus map, and then you can just kind of walk through like the different departments, but there's a section there where you can actually look up directly like blue light poles, and it'll tell you exactly where they are. There's a couple on upper campus, there's some in the surrounding like parking lots, so they're throughout campus. But again, the other thing is always just keeping that non-emergency line available in case you need to go ahead and reach out to them. Some off-campus support services. So the YWCA of Greater Los Angeles focuses on sexual assault. So if anybody is experiencing anything related to sexual assault, and maybe they want to speak with somebody on a confidential basis, and it's after hours, they have a crisis hotline that's available. The Women's Shelter of Long Beach also has a 24-hour hotline. The LGBTQ Center of Long Beach also has services available for individuals who have experienced some type of like sexual violence. But they're also a great resource. They also provide other resources as well. but there's also some national hotlines that you can go ahead and reach out to: the National Sexual Assault Hotline, the National Domestic Violence Hotline, and the Suicide Prevention Lifeline. So some great resources that are available to the community as well. And then this is just our contact information. So again, now there's two of us, Jacqueline and myself. The phone number to reach out to us, the email that you can go ahead and reach out to us, and the location, which we're housed under Student Health Center. But this is the end of my presentation. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing, but just wanted to see if anybody had any questions, thoughts, anything about the presentation.
First off, just congratulations, Rocio, on your new position. It's great that the campus added another. Hopefully they add more. Question, where would students be able to find your presentation, the slides?
Yes, so I can go ahead and email them to Sammy. Or actually, Sammy, you already have it.
Yes,
So
I do. I can send them over to Eric to be able to post them. I think just being aware of our surroundings is a huge thing, a huge takeaway. And like you said, like those services are provided on the weekends too. So anybody who's living on campus can have access to that. And knowing that you can get an escort. I mean, for me, I don't even like walking from my car to my house because I'm just like, well, it's just, I think it's just always been like society's rule for women. And I think that knowing that this is a resource for all of us students is great, especially if you have night classes and you don't want to walk back by yourself, or you can't walk back with a group, because it does happen. And like you said, there are blue lights, but there's also call centers on campus. And I have a busy map of that too, if anybody feels the need. And I'd also drop my contact information down below if you have any questions. And I'll believe you're going to drop your contact info, right?
mhm.
Yeah, just
Yes.
because at the end of the day, this is a campus issue and it's not going to go away. It's going to forever be present, but it's just being aware of it helps prevent these things from happening.
Yes, and you make a great point, because at the end of the day, as long as we as a community, we just have this information readily available. Like, I think it's important because we can just share it to the next person that we see, or if somebody needs my contact information, like, oh, like let me connect you to Rocio. Like I saw her present a couple weeks ago. Like, please feel free to like also just share the slides. And then like within the slides, there's also I included like the sources. So if you want to go ahead and like do your own research in terms of like some of the content. And I know we didn't cover Red Zone in my presentation, but I still have some sites on there if you want to get more information or be more informed about that information, because technically we're still within the high risk time frame. And unfortunately, even like during the summer, things happened, or we're living with our significant others. And again, there may be some like intimate domestic violence. So kind of keeping all that in mind, like, I think at the end of the day, like my takeaway, or if you want to just kind of keep in mind, is that my goal is to just create a safe space for anybody that comes in and meets with me, because I want to make sure that they feel empowered to do and make their own decisions. And if that's just talking to me once, totally fine. And I just want to make sure that that students have that information available.
And your job is definitely not underlooked. We appreciate that you're here for us students, and that you're able to be that backbone for somebody who has been through something traumatic, or doesn't have that opportunity to be able to feel like they can go to a close friend, or maybe they seek the reassurance through you, and to feel like they have a voice now that they've met you and everything. So I think knowing that you're a resource on campus is a huge thing, because I know campus has so many resources, but finding the right ones of where to go and for different things can be a little harder at times. So thank you for spending the time to talk about such a topic that is very important to our community.
Yes, and I'm glad to be here, and thank you all for allowing me to present. And also, if you want more information about some of the things that I covered for our program, Not Alone at the Beach, follow us on social media. But we also have a website. So if you just Google like Casa Long Beach, Not Alone at the Beach, it'll provide you with more information on there as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And that pretty much concludes our meeting. It's a little early. I know we went through really fast, but it's just small little awareness things that keep us accountable and may help us keep our community safe, because it's not just you may not experience, but you may see something going on around you and you never know. So it's always good to address those types of situations. And so again, thank you for your time, everybody.
Thank you so much for taking your time to visit with us. We really do appreciate it.
Especially because it's late at night too.
No
Out
worries.
past your hours.
No worries. Have a good night, everybody.
Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.